Hey folks, it's me, it's Max, and today we're going to talk about one word. We are talking about thou, right? What does that mean? Why is Shakespeare so stuffy? Why is it so old? Why does it feel like a foreign language? Why do I feel like thou is sort of at the root of all that feeling? Why is thou so off-putting? Why do I feel like I can't access Shakespeare because of that word thou? Let's talk about thou and what it means and why you use it and some examples, okay? First things first, it means you. Woo! All right? If you find a piece of Shakespeare text and you just write you instead of thou, it all sort of makes sense, especially in a modern context. But Shakespeare wasn't writing in our modern context. He was writing in his modern context when they still had formal and informal versions of you, okay? And you would probably think that the one that's gone, the stuffy one that is fancy, is the formal one, right? The way that people say, oh, that's so holier than thou, okay? Listen to that, all right? Holier than thou, which means something above looking down on thou, which is because thou is the informal, the familiar, the intimate one, okay? So just like in French or Spanish, right, you have tu and vous, and you have tu and usted, and so many other languages still have this, yet English, all done. Don't need it anymore, okay? We've figured it out. We're totally fine. It's this beautiful way of sort of coding language to say instantly, without even thinking about it, this is what I think of our relationship. What's the point of thou? Why would you use thou instead of you? Okay, so you would use thou if you were talking to someone who was of a lower social status, an employee or a servant, a child. So status or authority is a big reason to say thou, right? If you have the upper status or authority, then you would say thou to the person that you're talking to. Also, if you are of the same social standing, especially in the lower classes, you would say thou. You would just back and forth the thou, thou, thou. And also, big deal, if you are in a close, personal, some might say intimate relationship with somebody. Well, then, Max, why do people say thou when they're talking to God? Because people feel like they have a close, personal, intimate relationship with God. Okay? That's why they say thou. Well, let's talk about Romeo and Juliet, okay? So Romeo and Juliet, to one another, they say thou, 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 because it's intimate and close and loving, right? Meanwhile, Tybalt and Romeo, who are of the same social stature, who do not have a close, intimate relationship, should say you. But Tybalt loves to say thou because it's an insult. I'm putting you down. He also calls him boy. Here's the thing to notice. Romeo, on the day that Tybalt shows up and approaches him in the street and challenges him to a duel, Romeo is flying so high because he just married Juliet. Even if he clocks the fact that Tybalt just called him thou, not a big deal. Mercutio and Benvolio, especially Mercutio, on the other hand, hears that, right? So if you're playing Mercutio, hear him say thou instead of you. Let that light your fire even more, and then challenge Tybalt to a duel in Romeo's stead, okay? Use it. It's there on purpose. There's a reason for it, okay? And you, being Romeo's friend, existing in that context, would understand that, okay? So he says, boy. Okay, so Tybalt says to Romeo, boy, this shall not excuse the injuries that thou hast done me, therefore turn and draw. Okay, and then he doesn't, and Mercutio steps in, and then Tybalt accidentally kills him, and he blames it on Romeo, so he comes back to take his vengeance, and then the gloves are off, and no one is saying you, and no one is being formal, and no one is being polite. They mean business. And Romeo just can't be bothered to say you anymore, and Tybalt is still insulting him. So Romeo says, "For Mercutio's soul is but a little way above our heads, staying for thine to keep him company. Either thou or I or both must go with him." Right, so he's dropped the formality, okay? He is putting himself on the same plane as this guy. They are together in this mess of bloodshed, okay? It is going down. And then Tybalt responds with, "Thou wretched boy that didst consort him here shall with him hence." Calls him thou again. Calls him boy again. Awful. So awful that Romeo gets really upset and kills him. Okay? So that is a prime example of when you might use thou, especially in that context. But then there's the loving one, like with Romeo and Juliet. And then there's something interesting that happens sometimes where it will shift from one to the other. Right? So you might start out a speech being all, you know, you, my lord, you, hey, thou, right? Or on the other hand, it might be all like thou, and then something shifts and it gets all serious and it's real talk and it's all you, right? So here's a good example of the latter, okay? Much ado about nothing, Beatrice and Benedick. So what's going on in this moment? Let's see. Hero, Beatrice's cousin, has just been publicly shamed at her wedding by her own fiancé, Claudio, who happens to be Benedick's best friend. Okay, so after they've all gone and left the stage, then it's Beatrice and Benedick having a little chat about everything. Benedick says, "Tarry, good Beatrice, by this hand I love thee." To which Beatrice responds, "Use it for my love some other way than swearing." To which Benedick responds, "Think you in your soul the Count Claudio hath wronged Hero?" Whoa! We just got so formal in that last sentence, okay? So, I love thee, right? So what is thee? Thee is just the object form of thou, right? So thou does the thing, thee has the thing done unto it. So he's being informal, using that thee in there. And she kind of shoots him down, and he decides to, you know, get more serious and get incredibly formal and say, think you in your soul the Count Claudio hath wronged Hero? Right? He calls him the Count Claudio. It's his best friend. It's his best friend. And he says, the Count Claudio. Big shift there. Right? And that's such amazing information for you as an actor, for you as an audience member. Listen for the thous and the yous and the these and the yous. It will give you information about the relationships between each other. Even if you don't know really what's going on, you start to get an idea. Oh, and by the way, thy and thine. Thy is just the possessive form of thou, right? And thine is a variation on that, where usually it is, what's that word? It implies a thing that is not said, right? So in that Romeo and Juliet example, staying for thine to keep him company, right? Mercutio's soul is but a little way above our heads, staying for thine, meaning thy soul, to keep him company, right? It just says the thing without saying the thing. That's it. That's everything. That's thou. That's thee, thy, thine, thou. Done. Okay? So now you don't have to be confused. You don't have to wonder, what are they talking about? Why do they keep saying that word? I don't get it. Right? That doesn't have to be you. Congratulations. Go enjoy your Shakespeare. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you're doing really well out there. Thanks so much for all the support, and I will see you very soon. And motorcycle!